You know what's funny about Hollywood? People think it's all about the lights, the glamour, the red carpets, and the million-dollar smiles. That's the image we're sold every single day. Perfect lives, perfect outfits, perfect relationships. But when you start peeling back the layers, when you really start digging into the truth, you realize it's not all champagne and designer gowns. In fact, it's messy, it's political, it's full of egos, competition, and secrets that would make your jaw drop. And one of the best examples of that is what went down between Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Two names that defined the late 90s pop culture. Two women who, at least from the outside, seemed to be living the dream. But behind the scenes? Oh, that's where it gets interesting. See, back then, both Sarah and Jennifer were everywhere. Sarah Michelle Gellar had just exploded thanks to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That show wasn't just popular, it was a cultural phenomenon. Every teen girl wanted to be her, every guy had a crush on her. She was the queen of teen TV. Then on the other side, you had Jennifer Love Hewitt, the ultimate girl next door. Sweet, charming, America's darling. She wasn't just acting, she was singing too. She had that wholesome romantic vibe that made her a favorite in both movies and music. So imagine two massive stars like that, both at the top of their game, ending up working together on the same project. Sounds like a dream, right? Like a power duo. Wrong, because that's when things started getting a little complicated. Now, before I dive into what actually happened, let's talk about how these two ended up in the same orbit. In 1997, the slasher movie craze was at its peak. Scream had just blown up and suddenly everyone wanted a piece of that teen horror market. So along comes I Know What You Did Last Summer. A movie that had everything, a spooky premise, a small-town mystery, and of course, a cast filled with young, attractive rising stars. Jennifer Love Hewitt was cast as Julie, the sweet, somewhat innocent heroine. Sarah Michelle Gellar played Helen, the beautiful, confident pageant queen. On paper, perfect casting. Two very different characters, two very different personalities. What could go wrong? Well, according to a lot of people who were there, plenty went wrong. But here's the thing, you're never gonna find some big, public screaming match between these two. They were way too professional for that. The drama wasn't about throwing drinks or yelling on set. It was subtle. It was tension. It was that cold, silent competition that happens when two people are constantly being compared. And that's the key word, compared. Media couldn't help themselves. Every magazine cover, every interview, every red carpet moment, they pit these two against each other. Who's prettier? Who's more talented? Who's the real breakout star of the movie? Now, let me just say this. Hollywood thrives on that kind of narrative. It's practically the fuel that keeps the machine running. They love a good rivalry because it sells. It makes headlines. And whether Sarah and Jennifer wanted it or not, they became part of that game. And honestly, you can see why. Sarah had this edgy, fierce vibe thanks to Buffy, and Jennifer had that soft, romantic sweetheart appeal. Two completely different brands. But in Hollywood, those brands overlap more than you think because both were chasing leading lady status. Both wanted those big movie roles, those big paychecks, those big magazine covers. And here's where it gets even trickier. I Know What You Did Last Summer was a hit, a massive hit. It turned both of them into even bigger stars. But the way the movie was marketed? It kinda centered more on Jennifer Love Hewitt. She was the final girl. She was the one who screamed, "What are you waiting for?" in that iconic scene. So a lot of the attention, the posters, the interviews, they leaned toward her. And from what people say, that didn't exactly sit well with Sarah. Now, I'm not saying Sarah was sitting in her trailer plotting revenge or anything, but let's be real, when you're used to being the star of your own hit TV show and suddenly someone else is getting all the spotlight, it stings. And you can kinda see the shift if you look at what happened after. Sarah didn't come back for the sequel, Jennifer did. Now, officially, the reason was scheduling conflicts because Sarah was busy with Buffy. And that's true, but come on, if she really wanted to do it, they would have made it work. The reality is she probably didn't feel like playing second fiddle again. And honestly, I don't blame her. Because that's another thing about Hollywood that nobody talks about. The politics of hierarchy. Who gets top billing, who gets the better scenes, who gets the killer outfits, literally. Those things matter because they shape your image and your career. So, was it a full-blown feud? No, not in the way tabloids want you to think. But was there tension? Absolutely. There were whispers, there were little comments in interviews. There were those icy red carpet photos where the smiles didn't quite reach the eyes. And let me tell you, those kinds of rivalries are often worse than the loud, messy ones because they linger. They don't explode, they simmer. Now, fast forward a few years. Both women take very different paths. Sarah leans into voice work, independent films, and eventually steps back a little to focus on her family. Jennifer tries to reinvent herself in TV dramas, some music projects, and then crime procedurals. And this is where the contrast really hits you. One became a nostalgic cult icon, the other kept chasing that next big break. And because of that, the comparisons never really stopped. Even now, when people talk about 90s stars, their names pop up together. And honestly, That's exhausting if you're one of them, because no matter what you do, you're always part of this imaginary scorecard that the industry and the fans keep updating. But here's my take on it, and this is where it gets interesting. I think the feud, if you can even call it that, was never really between Sarah and Jennifer as people. It was between their careers, their images, their brands. And those things are controlled by studios, agents, PR teams, and yes, the media. These two women were essentially set up to compete. And in that situation, even if you start out as friends, things get awkward. Because suddenly every compliment to one of you feels like a dig at the other. Every headline that says America's sweetheart Jennifer Love Hewitt is basically saying, sorry Sarah, not you. And every article about TV's strongest heroine Buffy makes Jennifer look like she's just the pretty face. That pressure eats away at people. And the saddest part, both of them have admitted in different interviews over the years that fame during that time was brutal. The expectations were insane. The judgment was constant. And the media wasn't kind to women, especially not young women. Everything they wore, everything they said, every ounce of weight they gained or lost was dissected like a science project. So when you throw two women into that spotlight at the same time and give them overlapping roles, you're basically lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. Now, here's the twist. Over the years, there have been little moments where they both hinted that things weren't as bad as people think. Sarah has said nice things about Jennifer in interviews. Jennifer has praised Sarah too. But notice how those comments always sound. Diplomatic? Like, oh yeah, she's great, she's talented. Not exactly the gushing, we're best friends and we text every day kind of vibe. And that tells you everything you need to know. Because in Hollywood, if two people genuinely love each other, they make it known. They post selfies, they do joint interviews, they joke about the old days. That never really happened here. So, what's the truth? Honestly, I think it's this. Two young women, both insanely talented, both under insane pressure, both navigating an industry that thrives on competition, ended up being painted as rivals. And maybe, just maybe, they let that competition get to them a little. Not in a big dramatic way, but in those small, silent ways that change how you look at someone. And that's enough to create distance. And you know what? It's kind of sad, because when you think about it, these two could have been a powerhouse duo. They could have done more movies together, maybe even a TV project. Can you imagine Buffy and Julie teaming up for some epic horror reunion? Fans would have gone crazy. But instead, we got years of rumors, years of who was better, debates, and a relationship that, at best, was lukewarm. Now, looking back, it's clear that both Sarah and Jennifer were victims of the same system. A system that pits women against each other for clicks and ratings and ticket sales. And here's what I respect about both of them. Neither one ever played into it publicly. They never trashed each other, never started some messy Twitter war, never gave the media the catfight they were hoping for. And in today's world of social media meltdowns, that's actually kind of impressive. So, what's the lesson here? It's this. Hollywood might sell you a fantasy, but behind the curtain, it's just like high school cliques, rumors, rivalries, and a whole lot of pressure to fit into someone else's idea of success. And if you're not careful, it'll turn you against people who should be your allies. Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt didn't hate each other. They were just two people caught in a game they didn't create. And honestly, that's why I love revisiting stories like this. Because it reminds us that celebrities aren't superheroes. They're human. They have insecurities. They get jealous. They make choices based on pride or fear or just plain exhaustion. And that doesn't make them villains. It makes them real. And maybe, just maybe, if the industry had been kinder, if the media had focused more on their talent instead of their looks, we'd be talking about their iconic friendship today instead of their rumored feud. So the next time someone brings up Sarah versus Dals, Jennifer, just remember, the real fight wasn't between them. It was between who they were and who the world expected them to be. And honestly, that's a battle we all fight in some way, isn't it? At the end of the day, stories like these remind us that fame isn't always what it looks like from the outside. There's always another side, and sometimes it's far more complicated than we think. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to hear more untold truths and surprising twists from the world of celebrities, stick around because there's so much more to uncover together. Your support means a lot. It helps me bring you even more of these interesting conversations. So take a moment, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe.